Hello again, YouTube. Jake here with more Reading Too Much Into Things. We're gonna see if we can try to catch up on the Super Sentai and Kamen Rider backlog that's come from monthly rants and having to do taxes. Also, to make up for last week, Episode 9 of Jyuohgers' Japanese title was Owaranai Ichinichi, the Endless Day. In episode 26 of Kamen Rider Ghost, Japanese title was Kato Ketsudan no Joken. With that taken care of, let's dive into episode 10 of Jyuohgers, Mottomo Kiken na Gemu. The most dangerous game? Man! Man isn't part of the show's title. I just like being silly. Our episode opens. So meanwhile in space, Genis, the leader of the Death Galleons, has decided to get in on the blood games, pulling out an item that leaves Cube and Bulbhead panicked. We cut to the group of Moebas attacking citizens and jump-scaring us, the viewers, before the team comes in and, with little trouble, but more than a few good shots, deals with them, before being greeted by Growth Lady. Wait. You lot know who she is. As in, you've likely seen her walk up to the defeated player of the week and put a coin into them to make them grow? Why the hell have you never, I don't know, tried to stop her? However, she's not here to make a player grow this time. Instead, to introduce Genis' hologram as he explains his game. And I have to raise my eyebrow at it more than a little. If any of my viewers keep up with One Piece, either the anime or the manga, his setup will sound a tad familiar. He places a death cage over the city, in this case a techno one, which slowly shrinks and vaporizes anything it touches as it does. We even see it straight up killing a cat at one point. Yeah, that cat's dead. However, unlike the birdcage, instead of having to beat Genis in a fight to stop it, they have to find a switch that will deactivate it, the switch being somewhere in the area of the cage itself. And this is where I need to bring up some questions. They established that the dome only destroys life forms when it touches it, so they don't have to have an effect of the buildings being destroyed. So if the dome were to touch the switch, it would not be destroyed, of course. But by that same token, they could have, just as an evil joke, put the switch somewhere on the very edge of the dome, so that the second the game started, the switch was already outside. And they need not tell the Jyuohgers that they've already lost. Instead, spent the whole time watching them run around and fail to save everyone because they actually were never given a chance to save anyone. Not even the cat. However, if we go with the idea that they want this to be a fair game, by that same token, they would have to put the switch somewhere they could still reach without the death of any of the humans in the dome. So, as close to the center of this death cage to begin with. Yes, it would be harder to think of that fact when in a panic, but it would need to be near the center to prevent them from finding it only for it to be unreachable. Not to mention, we will likely never, ever see this Dome of Death used again by the Death Galleons as an actual means of assault, which will be baffling if they find themselves at a disadvantage against the Jyuohgers. If they ever complain about them getting in their way or getting too powerful, we're likely never going to hear them suggest using this dome against them again. But with that said, we don't know how they even set this up. It just appears one day. Alright, back to the slow building dread of certain doom. The Jyuohgers start looking, but they have zero luck, reminding Tusk of their inability to find the Mark of Kings as well. And despite this literally being a you don't find it, you're actively dead situation, Tusk decides that finding the switch is impossible. Okay, fine, Tusk. If it's impossible, just go over and walk into the dome. What? You don't want to actively help search, right? You think it's impossible to find because you can't find the key? Then just walk into the dome and save us trouble. Either you help search and put up with how frustrating it is, or commit yourself to it being impossible and quit life. Tusk's depression starts to hit Sayla and Leo as well, since they haven't found the Marks of Kings despite it being a smaller object. And despite we, the viewers, knowing they haven't found it because it was taken by the bird person who saved Yamato's life, but they don't know that, so I can't complain on that point. In a infinitely wider area. Instead of telling them if you don't search, you're dead, Amu suggests those who don't want to take a break, and she continues searching with Yamato. The others end up helping first a little girl, then a whole crowd of people run from the shrinking dome, and we get a giant growth of Tusk's character. He admits humans and Juman are no different. Why, yes, I was still going with the headcanon that Tusk is a horrible racist. Why do you ask? This is enough to get the three back in the searching mood, while Yamato, using his eagle vision, locates the switch. But how can they let the others know? No. They do not remember that the Mark of Kings is a phone. I guess because there's not enough time to call them. Leo climbs up to knock the switch down, Tusk catching it with his extendable trunk, because elephants, and hits the switch, deactivating the dome. However, it's much too soon to celebrate, as the switch turns into a killer robot that shoots laser missiles. Gift. And here, I have to admit that is a clever death trap. It still leaves a lot of the questions that I asked last time, but the fact that deactivating the dome also activates a killer robot is a nice trick when your villain goal is entertaining yourself, not actively killing the Rangers, because if it was killing the Rangers, I'd ask, well, why didn't you go with the robot in the first place? Still, kudos. So, yeah, they try fighting it. However, since it's a robot, it easily reads and predicts every one of their moves and is far more powerful than anything they've fought yet. Topping it off, it can freely grow giant whenever it wants to. It tries to take the city out with an Ultra Blast, but the two Megazords block it, though it does not end well for said Megazords. Our episode ends with the team badly beaten, and Yamato nearly crushed by debris, only to be saved by an older man dripping red feathers. And now let's not give ourselves a chance to breathe. Let's discover some of those early secrets this show is hiding with Jyuohgers Episode 11, Doubutsu Daishugo, or the Big Animal Gathering. We pick up right where we left, with the man revealing he's the Birdman from Yamato's youth before Yamato passes out. And to give everyone a break, Gift, the giant killer robot, turns off to charge up as well. The team uses this time to retreat, only noticing a lack of Yamato by the time they get to Mario's, and barely noticing the stranger leaving, having dropped Yamato off. For those of you who have a strange, familiar sensation when looking at our Birdman here, don't worry, you're not insane. He's played by Kohei Murakami, who is most famous for playing unapologetic bastard Masato Kusaka, Kamen Rider Kaiza in the series Kamen Rider Thighs. Discovering a feather on his person, Yamato puts together that the man was indeed the Birdman, and that he must have the Mark of King on him, given he can disguise himself as human. That night, having kept this revelation to himself, we get a nice, warm scene between Yamato and Mario, and about the difference between an artist and a scientist. How an artist's truth is whatever they believe in, like a multicolored eagle, while a scientist cannot let feelings influence their truth. And all that is a much more complicated topic than I'd want to cover, but bravo to a kid's show for mentioning it. So, the next morning, he tells his friends and gives Tusk the feathers so he can track down the Birdman. However, Yamato stays behind, claiming he needs more time to heal. Just in time for Gift to start moving again. And so, Yamato heads out to fight it. We cut to the others surrounding the Birdman, demanding to know why he stole the Mark of King, trapping them in the human world. His response of, "We should cut ourselves off from that world," is not what they were expecting. This does not stop them, however, from attacking the Birdman, only to be easily overpowered and, despite being 4-on-1, forced into a defensive fight. Back with Yamato as he prepares to face Gift, he reveals his plan is for the others to go home and for him to protect the Earth alone. Except you'd have to give up your cube as well to open the gate. Assuming it still works from how beaten up it looked in the first episode. I mean, I guess you could take the cube yourself after they return home, but you're not heroically sacrificing yourself as much as you think. You're more making this whole situation awkward. As Yamato flies at Gift, we cut back to the others' fight and learn that the chainsword seems to be tied to the eagle powers and not just being the Red Ranger. Weird. The team begins to overpower him once they morph, finally putting the Birdman on the defensive, and Leo is able to knock the Mark of King out from him after a hard hit. Speaking of hard hits, Yamato gets punched through a building or two. This explosion is loud enough to get Sayla's and the team's attention, realizing what Yamato was likely doing for them. After getting hit into, though not through, another building, the team finally arrives to help Yamato, having given up on the Mark of Kings for now. And again, the gate only worked with all 6 cubes, didn't it? That's the whole reason they treated the Birdman as a thief, because he stole one of them. So they'd have to come back for his even if they took the one the Birdman had. I get that this is supposed to be moving, but I'm not moved when the scene doesn't make sense! And so, somehow through the power of teamwork, they're able to damage Gift's giant form. But then, the real power of teamwork comes to play, as the phone sets up a 6-mech Gatai. And so, they activate the Dobotsu Dai Gatai, bringing together all the mechs they have so far. I'm really hoping the others get second forms of the mechas as well. I actually would be annoyed if only Yamato gets them. Though, there may not be enough buttons on the morphers in that case. Unless they're allowed to, dial like 10 or 11. Even the giraffe and mole, putting together Elephant 4, Lion 3, Shark 2, Tiger 5 as the body, with Eagle 1 and Gorilla 6 as the arms, to form Wild Jyuoh King! Which, of course, since it's the newest Gatai, is so powerful it's not harmed by the robot that beat their butts last episode. As Gift prepares its city-destroying blast again, Wild Jyuoh King charges up its own finisher, Jyuoh Dynamic Strike, launching the combined power of all of their mechs together, overwhelming and destroying the robot. Back at Mario's, Yamato is filled in on their encounter with the Birdman. And so our episode ends with everyone wanting something from the most injured of the team. These episodes were a mixed bag. While I like that we're getting into more story than just defend against aliens and the team complaining that they can't go home, with the introduction of the idea that the Birdman is resentful towards Jyuland, we are running into a problem that you might be sick of hearing me bring up about Kamen Rider Ghost. And that's the issue of pacing for this series. Again, these shows last roughly 50 episodes, and yet we've come to a rather plot-important one in less than a dozen. That's really my biggest complaint for the moment. I had smaller gripes, yes, just like Ghost rushing to its next big upgrade, I feel Jyuohgers has here as well. Speaking of Ghost, without further ado, it's time to finally rescue Spectre's body from the Gamma world, and see just what next level enemies the team will face, with episode 27, Keshi, Kakugo no Senyu, Do or Die, Resolute Infiltration. We join our heroes in hell, already in progress, staring dramatically. But then we cut to Igor, moving on to Plan B, which calls for a revived Mozart Ganma, as he realizes that Akari is likely behind, preventing his first plan from working. At the temple, Akari reveals that she has unlocked the makeup of the Ganma icons and their eye portals, and that she can't make sense out of any of it. That the science involved is stuff humanity hasn't been able to develop yet. We cut back to the Gamma world, first with Takaru asking Daijob what his father is like, and then to said father talking to Arya about Two Feathers, and how, because of Papa's doubt, him being captured and the coup and all that is all his fault, and Two Feathers is just too pure-minded. Back to Daijob and Takaru establishing exposition for a bit, and then over to Two Feathers, facing a copy of himself the prayer stone took the shape of, calling itself a Ganmiser, before the rest of the stones take the same shape, only with differently colored tags near their necks. After a couple not at all informative scenes, we cut back to Takaru, who is now completely lost, and because of his shouting, is found by the Ganma grunts. Daijob finding Spectre to him as he goes off by himself. Which shouldn't be a problem given Takaru's grateful form, but to make things easier, he summons out Himiko and Ryoma, who help in thinning out the crowd. Then we cut to Spectre's capsule opening on its own, before Two Feathers decides now is the time to fully kill his father. Takaru finally finds the capsules. However, Spectre's already out of his and fully dressed. Where do they get their clothing? We cut to Arya and Daijob meeting up, which is just her telling him to meet with Father. Which is good, cause there's a death squad heading his way. Back with Spectre, he grabs his Spectre icon from Edith's room, as well as a really, really evil looking icon that looks more like the Gamma ones. We get a brief scene of Onari about to be attacked by Javert, before we come back to Spectre meeting with Edith. They have a vague talk about Spectre having agreed to help Edith with his goals, but Spectre stopped that in order to save Kanon, and that Edith now plans to give the glowing evil icon to Takaru, who Spectre did not know was here. However, after Edith laughs at the prospect of Takaru not being able to endure it, Spectre says he will take it instead for Takaru's sake. And by doing so, it labels itself as Deep Spectre. So, wait, does that mean it would have labeled itself Deep Ghost or Deep Necron if Takaru or Daijob picked it up first? Just saying. Back with Onari, Javert loses the energy to attack him, and Onari, after helping him sit down, runs off. Javert is certain that means he's finished. While everyone is running about, Daijob comes across the room of capsules, just in time to see that Takaru is telling the truth about them turning to dust, much to his horror. Onari returns to Javert and places one of Akari's antidote patches on his head to reverse the effects of the red sky I guess he was still suffering. He also brought food. I could make a joke that it's likely healthier for him than his addiction to croquettes. After hearing that Onari did a lot of things in his past, we cut to Takaru, of all people, being the first one to find Papa Ganma. He breaks him out of his barrier just as Daijob arrives as well. Yes, that is true. Before he can explain anything, other than calling Takaru a good friend, the death squad appears and fires at Daijob and Papa. After a couple of tension breakers, we cut back to Papa Ganma having taken the blow for his son. Takaru flies into a rage and takes the group on alone. By the time he returns, Daijob receives Papa Ganma's final words. $5 to guess what it is. Of course. With the last words any father should have for their child, Papa Ganma dies in Daijob's arm, the finishing blow delivered by Two Feathers. When challenged by Takaru if Two Feather even has a heart, he proclaims that he does, and that tells him, the perfect being, to lead this perfect world. And so he unleashes the transformed prayer stone on Takaru, which begins to take another form, which seems to resonate with Spectre's new power. But, just as we did with Jyuohgers this week, we do as well with Ghost, as we see just what power the Ganmeister has, as well as what the Deep Spectre icon can release. With episode 28, Bakugen, Shin-en no Chikara, Explode the Abysmal Power. One small thing I want to impress upon is the restraint of not just showing Deep Spectre's form in the opening credits. It's a rare occasion when the episode something new is shown, it's not spoiled in the opening. Also, we lost a day and are at 60 left for Takaru. We pick up again where we left off, with the Ganmeister turned to flame, but Takaru's icon defend against it, giving it a physical form. Takaru engages the flame-given form, which can choose to stop having form to escape getting hit. Back at the temple, everyone's worried about the Gamma World team, and QB has hit an artistic slump, resulting in a drastic change of his style. Back in the Gamma world, while they're evenly matched, Takaru is starting to wear out. In order to cover for him, Nobunaga summons himself as a distraction. Back with Igor, it seems he's been having the Mozart Gamma make a perfect song for the project, and is not happy about what was given to him, because Igor is completely the wrong person to judge art. Speaking of art, QB is still frustrated that he's lost his knack for abstract painting, and heads off in hopes of getting over his slump.
My hate for this show's disrespect towards historical icons, especially the disrespect towards the music of Mozart, has no bounds. I'll take it.
And so, while out sulking, QB and the Mozart Gamma cross paths, realizing that in each is a brother artist stuck in a slump. Back in the Gamma world, Arya appears to hide Takaru and Daijob. However, they're then found. Great job! Arya covers for them as they escape, all while watched by Edith. Back with the temple team, they find QB having made friends, but Igor finds them too, who sees having once as a defect and uses the knife Gamma icon again. Neither ally Gamma can help, be it because of QB's artistic slump, or the Mozart Gamma's ability to mute sound not being an attack.
Between these two here and Slimer in the real Ghostbusters cartoon, there's a rant topic somewhere here.
Takaru and Daijob are beset by more Gruntmas, and Takaru is forced to fight while also moving Daijob so he's not hit as well. Back in the human world, Onari attempts to defend against Igor, but is saved by the appearance of Javert, their one useful Gamma ally, who easily beats up the scientist, and then leaves having repaid his debt. As for Igor, he gets slapped by Akari, hard enough that, with a whine, he stumbles away. Back with Takaru, Spectre arrives to give a hand, and the two finally meet up. They're eventually able to get to safety, and Takaru fills Spectre in. Spectre, being the social genius that he is, applies the same love and care he did to Takaru for Daijob. He punches him. However, before long, they are found again by Two Feathers and the Gunmiser. Daijob explodes with emotion, with determination, and once again, the icons, as well as Spectre's newest one, react to the moving prayer stone as the three engage it. However, Takaru's spirit, I guess, is seemingly pulled to and stunned by the other prayer stones, leaving him unable to fight. Spectre and Daijob attempt to double rider kick the Gunmiser, however, they are deflected by the being. And so, for the moment, the three escape, however barely. Even Sage the Sage is frightened. And so, once they chase the team to the human world, with Takaru paralyzed and Daijob exhausted, it is up to Spectre and his new ability to do battle with the Gunmiser. His new icon seemingly dragging him into hell, even just to transform. However, he is able to appease it for now and completes the transformation. And he also gets Sunglasses' sword gun. Weird. While he's able to take out the Gruntmas and engage the Gonmiser on even footing, he cannot seem to get through its defenses. But by unleashing his Rider Kick, he gets through it, destroying it. And, finally, calling Spectre by his real name, Daijob is willing to take his hand and help as a friend. They are then greeted by the temple team, and we learn that QB and the Mozart Ganma decide to travel the world to dispel their slumps. And so our episode ends on a happy note in the human world, but with the stone reforming in the Ganma world.
Well, those were better written episodes than past ones, leaving out my personal gripes. But my stand that this show is stupid still remains. A few good episodes cannot help a show itself get over being stupid. It needs to be if it continues on with this level, then I will shift from saying the show is stupid to this show's first half is stupid. Still, that's one of the reasons why we sit through the whole thing. Thanks again for joining me for twice as much Toku review as usual. I'm Jake, this is Reading Too Much Into Things, and as always, stay safe.